And just this time a year ago, Kendrick, as we transition to our next conversation, uh, Coach Shea was coming off a 1-9 year. Like you said, the best 1-9 team you had seen. Now there's another one. There's a team this year in the SIC. They're also 1-9. A program that's 1-9. You might have heard of them. We heard about Dr. Martin Luther King. Well, he actually went here, and I don't know if they were playing good football then, but they haven't played a lot of good football since then. But here we are. Everyone knows where we're going with this. Last week, the week started off with news that there may be a coaching change over there at Morehouse College. Gerard Wilcher was hired last year, on February 4th, and he lasted all of 8 months and a day, 8 months and a day. And he is no longer there. I know we talked about it on last week's show. We talked about it. I think we touched on it maybe a little bit on yesterday on Sunday's reaction show. If you guys haven't seen the reaction show, make sure you do that. A lot of stuff you guys normally see on the weekly show was there. But talk to me, Kendrick. It actually went down. And I know you were right there, kind of coaching and letting us know that things were going to go down. Talk to us about what's happened. Talk to us about what's happened in the last, I guess, maybe month or so. I mean, this seems, obviously a 1-9 record. Nobody wants that. But they were 1-9 last year. As you said last week, they're used to losing. So what are the streets telling you?
So, one of the things that I want people to just pump their brakes on, there was a lot of people, a lot of shows that ran with a narrative that's out there about Morehouse. We know how that negatively impacts programs. We look at what happened with Jackson State when those narratives were out. And I just want us to stop for a second to just think. Some of the narratives about him being fired from 1-9. I mean, come on now. This is Morehouse. You're talking about a team that has had 24 losing seasons since they entered Division II in 1984. They've only had 10 seasons over 500 in their history in Division II. So this is a team that has had a lot of down years, and they don't normally just get rid of coaches. And I will say, I checked their record. They have 4 coaches that have been at Morehouse for 1 year or less in their history, but all 4 of them left for other jobs. And one of the most notable one is Doug Williams. So, they had him. I think they have Frank Hinkson, Vincent Williams, and Dwight Scales are all coaches who coached at Morehouse for 1 year. They all left for other jobs. I think even some of this even spills from like what people were saying about the Clark Atlanta when they let Coach Slater go. There's a lot that goes into these programs, and there's a lot of things that move. When you talk about a place like Morehouse, that a lot of politicking goes on. And so we have to stop and say, well, wait a minute. Let's get all the facts first before we just jump on what Morehouse decided to do and what Morehouse decided to do. Because, without knowing anything, you have to say on face value, it has to be deeper than football. It clearly just has to be deeper than football. I think Coach Wilcher was, in my opinion, from talking to him early in the season, I felt like he was a good fit. I felt like he understood Morehouse. He's a Morehouse graduate. And I know that clearly these people that are making these decisions at these institutions, they're weighing that. They're weighing these options. Like, what does it look like to get rid of your own alum, after 8 months? Yes, he came into a really tough spot. They traveled around but Coach Freeman was in a tough spot because prior to him going, there was a year where they didn't even have anywhere to practice. They were practicing, just trying to find places to even practice football. So I think there is a level of Morehouse needs to know whether or not they want to be serious about football, or athletics in general. And at the same time, know that, I don't think they would have got rid of Coach Wilcher if it hadn't be something a little bit different. And this goes to what I say about all HBCUs. We have to be able to control the narratives. We have to get out in front. We can't let narratives just float about our institutions, and our institutions do not do a good job at spinning. We talked about this last week. When he made the comment, I said this on the show, as people say, that's a classic clip. His response on HBCU game day, I felt like, oh, wait a minute, dog. Like you're trying these people. Like, don't do that, because it's Morehouse. I mean, this is still Morehouse College. And I just think it was a totality of things that got him dismissed. And I wish him the best. And I wish Morehouse the best.
Yeah. Great points. Again, you talk about the narrative, you talk about and things like that. Well, Coach Wilcher, he is a Morehouse alumnus, but he's also been around. He's been around in some Division I programs and some places where they have invested in football. And it goes in. You look back. 8 months ago, they're looking for a head coach. They got rid of Coach Freeman. We didn't hear much about the search. Everybody had just gone through the Ed Reed situation, so there was a lot of hesitancy. There was fear. I know last year, we talked about it, but you brought it up about maybe hiring Ray Lewis. From what I hear, the streets tell me he's still hanging around looking for HBCU jobs, Ray Lewis. But Atlanta, I think we got past that being the move. But
yeah, wait, please correct that before the people come from my head. I will say that Stephen Gates, there was one more person that got me. I don't know, it was two of y'all. Y'all talked me off that ledge, and I'm so grateful that y'all talked me off. So thank you, my brother, for talking me off the Ray Lewis ledge, because I was on the Ray Lewis ledge. I'm off of it. I think there's some good people that Morehouse can get, but it also goes back to the other point. They've had an AD change.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this order of operation at HBCUs, like these ADs and these coaches. And it's like, hey, an AD should be able to clearly plan out where they want to see the program go, lay it out, get their guys, be able to really plan out a vision for your athletic program. And I think that Ellis is going to be a good AD at Morehouse. I think they just got to overcome, this hump. I just hate it for Coach Wilcher because he's a nice guy. I think that he recruited well, got some really nice young talent. I'll even argue that the offensive line, that they have the best offensive line from a fundamental standpoint at Morehouse this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's still an attractive job for someone who understand the academic requirements and can go in there and put together a program.
Right. And you talk about it too, but we talk about narratives, but you got to talk about the investments, the strength and conditioning coach. We're in 2021, in 2023, and football is a tough sport. They got to have that. You talk about the narratives and situations, and again, you hear a lot of things that are allegedly are going on or contributed to this on or off the field, and but when Wilcher comes out and says it, he kind of set the pace on it, and the university, and obviously universities can have their hands tied, but they kind of have to figure out some way to at least get their side of it out. However that goes. So I think it's going to be very important for them. Again, because I made a joke last week about it, but I laughed almost in a situation. I can't remember if it was Morehouse or Clark Atlanta. I compared to them to St. Aug. I guess Clark Atlanta more so because they've run through those coaches. But again, it's like, are you serious about football, even at the Division II level? Because they are, them being who they are, it's just like Howard at the D1 level. If they're good, they're going to get way more attention than the average D2 HBCU program because they're Atlanta, because they're at Morehouse. But if they're bad and they do something that, like firing your coach after 8 months, it's going to be blown up that much more than if it was, Miles College, or if it was Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? So where do they go from here? Again, like you said, you got Coach, you got Ellis, Harold Ellis, an alumnus of the program who's been a lot of places, probably got a lot of connections. How do they pick up the pieces and get something gone? Because it's the second year in a row they're 1-9. Thank God for Clark Atlanta for them, or they would be winless again. The floor is only a little bit lower on that side of the SIAC. What can they do as a program for this to at least be taken seriously, because right now they're a joke.
One of my thoughts about it is they have to lean on the Morehouse brand at this point. They have to pick themselves up. You're Morehouse. One of the things that I always say, the conference would benefit a whole lot if Morehouse was good. Even more so, you start talking about Tuskegee and their brand, but you start talking about that Morehouse brand. It's really big. I think Morehouse being good is good for the entire conference as a whole. And so I do want to see them get it together. I do want to see them, decide, hey, let's do what it takes. You start talking about what some of the investment, because I know one of the things Wilcher was talking about, them being underfunded, in their scholarships. And that's an interesting thing when you start talking about these private schools and the state schools and what it takes. And I mean, the numbers are drastically different with a school like a Tuskegee or Morehouse has to put in the student aid compared to maybe like a Fort Valley or Albany State has to put into your student aid to get students. And I think that Morehouse, they just have to dig deep. I mean, it's there, you know what I'm saying? Like to me, the Morehouse brand, it's just outside looking in. To me, Wilcher said this, there's no house that you can't go into with that M on your chest. You, especially for us African-American people, you can go in anybody's house with that M on your chest, okay? That's one. And then the second thing is just make the investment. I think that Morehouse would see a really big return on their investment if they put into athletics, just because of the name alone. You look at when they went up to New York when they played Howard. Now, I know they didn't quite get the numbers when they played Albany State, but that goes back to also your data points. What do your people want to see? What do the Morehouse faithful, the people who invested and have stakeholders in Morehouse, the games they want to see, people they want to see you play? We have to go and start to build that infrastructure from the inside out to make that program what it could be and what it should be, in my opinion.
Great point there. Edward notes they usually do have a good basketball program. That is correct, but it's football's football. Especially there in the South. Maybe if they were further north, they could get away with it. But it is what it is.